Okay. Hey, we got one person here. Hello, Jessica. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the box below, and we'll answer some things at the back end. But thank you for joining. We'll wait here, get kicked off. I like to kick it off right at 2, just so I mind everyone's time. So even if it's just me and you, we'll work through it. I will definitely be posting this afterwards, though, so it will always be available online. And it is too. So thank you again for joining me. Another week of the Jobsticker's Jobseeker Resource Group live event. And this week, it's not going to be too painful. I know sometimes I get rather deep in some conversations, but this one's about cover letters. And cover letters should not be something that is painstakingly hard to understand. I mean, you're essentially, well, I'll first say only 50% of the hiring managers read them, and recruiters. Literally, it's pretty much split down the line. You get half the people that will read them because A, they want to see your writing style, or B, they'll want to see if you listened to the job description, because in some cases the job description will give you details that say, you know, write this particular thing in the cover letter, because they just want to see that you're being detail oriented and paying attention. So that's one thing I've seen with cover letters. And that's kind of a neat little trick too, because then you get some opportunities to, you know, get to find the people that are actually paying attention to everything on the job descriptions. And then C, you get, you know, the people that want to just see what your story is, and they actually want to like understand what you're writing. So it just depends on the hiring manager and the recruiter. But again, for the 50% that do read them, it's mandatory. And the 50% that don't read them, you still got to have it, because that's quote unquote playing the job hunting game. And you don't want to be disqualified from a job because you didn't have a cover letter. Let's just, when it comes down to brass tacks. So what's the difference, right? Just have it and submit it with your resume. Those are kind of your two biggest content pieces of your marketing, your job hunting marketing kit. With the cover letter, there are 3 types that I'm kind of seeing that are most effective. The first type, everyone knows, is just kind of a job target type, right? So you are submitting to a job, sending it to someone or uploading it within the applicant tracking system or the career portal. And essentially, this one will be something that is an introductory to your resume. This is that kind of trying to entice people to read further and to dive into your actual resume. It tells the reader what you're applying for, how adding to their organization would be advantageous for them because of you being brought on. You know, what are these value offerings that you can present to them? What's your unique selling proposition? You know, what's your USP? What's your really, you know, maybe 2-3 great achievements that relate directly to that targeted role. And it kind of just demonstrates this understanding of the position and why you're a good fit, you know, based on the criteria of the job description. And again, this will prompt the reader to want to read the resume and hopefully request the interview, depending on how strong the resume is. So again, it should be a part of your job hunting toolbox. With that being said, what I would mention moreover is the cover letter right now, given the circumstances with the pandemic and the global health crisis, it's okay to mention if you've been laid off because of this. This is the one spot, although I am seeing a little bit on the resume side too, but we could touch on that on another call. But this is a good spot for you to insert a 1-sentence. I was affected recently by a layoff due to COVID-19, period. Move on. No rambling, no added things, just keep it short and sweet. The more you kind of fluff it up or try to explain things, kind of like in an interview, the more red flags go up and the alarms start to go off with the hiring manager or the recruiter. So keep that in mind. You can drop a little nugget in the actual cover letter that says you were laid off because of COVID. That's the first cover letter. And I'll just say this, between, you know, the three cover letters I'm speaking about, and that was the first one, none of them should ever be generalized. You should never have a cover letter where you just send it and it works for every type of job. You can't do that. You got to customize it. just think about the reader's perspective. Isn't it nice to see something that's kind of relates to what you're hiring for directly? That's going to make you want to look further into these documents they're providing as a job seeker to you. So for what it's worth, please, if you have a general cover letter right now, start trying to fine tune it so you can use it for different roles. Even if you don't want to necessarily customize it to the point of putting the company name and the title you're applying for, which I still think is a good idea, it will be better for you. At least have it where if you're looking for sales roles, have one for sales. If you're looking for just account management, client relations roles, have one for that then. Or if you're looking for one of the sales leader role, and maybe you're open to all three of those types of professions, then have 3 different cover letters. The second one is the disruptive letter. This is kind of a way to get the employer to start resonating with your feelings of the brand. You know, how do you emotionally connect with the brand? You can, and I've gotten some of this information online from other colleagues. This is not stuff I've not invented, so don't get me, don't take, I did not create the disruptive cover letter. This has been around, but it's really a neat idea. First time they ever used a product or service, you can kind of explain this to them and share a personal story about why you connect with that brand or that company. And it just helps them understand what life experience has made you feel a part of their tribe, right? So a part of their company. So, you know, I know a lot of people have a lot of brand advocacy for Apple, you know, by using the iPhone and that kind of thing. But if you can get a little personal in this cover letter about why that company is so cool to you, especially using a personal story, this is called a disruptive cover letter. It's a little bit different of a cover letter coming to the reader that makes them go, oh, wow, and it kind of stops them in their tracks. So if you can draw them in and create that emotional reaction, that can convert into a connection. Hopefully now you get a request for an actual interview. I mean, hopefully the resume again backs up what you're putting in the cover letter. So that's the key still. There are employers out there, believe it or not, that will bring you in based off your cover letter without reading your resume. Sometimes they'll have this incentive in their head that I don't want to have any bias with this person. I'd like to just see what their cover letter is saying, bring them in for an interview, and then review the resume with them. I've seen this. So as eccentric as it might sound, the hiring process is always a winding road. There's no one quick way to get hired anywhere. So there's a lot of little tricks and neat things that we'll cover every week, but this is just one of them, is this disruptive cover letter. The final cover letter sample is called a pain letter. A pain letter, now you're essentially trying to diagnose what the potential employer's problem is, and then explain to them how you're going to alleviate this by getting you into the door, right? What's the hiring manager's biggest problem? Because they have this open requisition. Everybody is hiring because of some sort of need, or there's a problem to fill, or what have you. There's always circumstances for putting someone you know, adding additional headcount. So if you can put yourself in his or her shoes and think about the possible future boss, what they're up against, organizations may be growing fast, they're adding people, maybe they're large and they're trying to react to market changes or implementing new solutions and they need a team to help. Everybody has a pain, whether it's a good or a bad pain, so you got to help ease that pain. And I will kind of read verbatim a pain letter suggestion here. So, dear hiring professional, congratulations you and your team on your recent success. And again, you want to fill in some of these customized spots. You don't want to just generalize recent success. You know, what is it? I bet that's a feather in your cap and a tremendous affirmation from the marketplace. I can only imagine that given your company's rate of growth, your sales team is desperate need for help to continue this expansion. I currently own and operate a powerhouse insurance office, and I was able to secure 142 sales in FY20 to earn the #2 regional ranking. We had to keep building high performance teams and training agents on these sales efficiencies, the product benefits, and the business development side. So I totally relate with where you're at. If you have a need for a district sales manager, I'd love to chat if you have the minute and share a bit about my story with you. Thank you for your valued time. Sign off. So again, short, sweet, and never have a cover letter go beyond half a page. I mean, 3/4 of a page, there better be some good juice in there. I've developed ones that are 3/4 page because of the font size sometimes. So if your font's maybe a size 12 to kind of match up with the rest of your documents, that's an exception because it's still not a lengthy read. It's just a little bit bigger of a font. But all in all, half a page, get to the point. I mean, this thing should not be, I've had cover letters that people have written that are like, you know, books, and you're like, no one's going to read a 3-page about you document. So for what it's worth, keep that in mind too when you're trying to develop your cover letter. And I have no problem if anybody does need a cover letter or a sample of what I'm talking about. I always try to give up the goods. So feel free to just ping me afterwards and tell me, hey, I wouldn't mind seeing that pain letter sample if you could, and I'll send it over. I have no problem doing that. But so thank you for your time today about the cover letters. Again, these are quick, every week, 15 minutes, and I will leave this open to anyone that has any questions specifically in the chat, or you can even just drop a message there if you don't want to talk on the little messaging there, and be glad to answer anything anybody has right now. And thank you for joining. Mike's here. All right. Oh, look at my sister-in-law's here. I can't see you guys when I'm talking because of my notes.
Hey, thanks, Matt. We appreciate the work you did on resume and everything else. And I am not great at doing these cover letters. I actually hate it, but I do want to I'm using like your format, your basic format for the one job, and trying to make it, I don't know. We'll see. I'm throwing some hooks out in the water for a couple of the others, but it is a painful process. But I like your points on, you know, maybe the pain letter, finding ways that you could kind of, you know, find their buttons, what they're looking for, or maybe looking into that disruptive letter too. But it's not a strength of mine for sure.
Well, ping me. I can give you some templates, and we can even work together. You know, the biggest thing, like you had mentioned there, is, you know, how's it going to resonate? And as soon as they see something that kind of tickles them a little bit, that's their incentive. I mean, maybe this is the only way to get them to open your resumes if you have something that's so profound, because I don't know, depending on how they're hiring or whatever their practices are. So that's why cover letters are even more important, is that the ones that do read it, some of them won't even pass you along into the next phase of reading the resume without something resonating. So I think it's, again, less general, more niche, more focused on what they're about, not you. I think it makes for a better cover letter, but also toot your own horn a little bit too. I mean, have some accomplishments, but, you know, really more about them. And that's kind of anything, any type of interview you're doing, even, yeah, it's a brag sesh. But be mindful of that. They're wasting an hour of their time to vet you, and hopefully it's not a waste of time by the end of it. So just make it more about them, no matter what you're doing in the job hunt.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Thanks for and just follow up offline, bud. I don't mind sharing some. I got some templates I'll just shoot over.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for joining. I got any tips on writing cover letter for someone who is switching industries? Yes. So essentially, when you're a career changer, you want your most transferable, and I know you'll read this and hear this everywhere from us career coaches and resume writers, is transferable skills, right? What are you doing now, or have done, or acquired recently, whether it's continuing education or what have you, certification, but anything that's kind of juicy that relates to what they're doing. If you're a nurse trying to be a retail manager, don't mention the cover letter all these nursing things. Mention the relationship building with people, and you don't have to say patient. You can use customer or client at that point. In your brain, you're trying to be in the retail management world. They deal with clients, they don't deal with patients. So just alter some of the lingo, but keep in mind, if you go through a job description of what the retail manager does, highlight things that relate to you. That, oh, I can do reporting, I can do you know, team management. I trained some nurses before, and training and that kind of thing. So keep that in mind of when you're doing the actual cover letter and resume, for that matter, that you can highlight some of those things on the job description that resonate with you, that you know you can handle, and start filtering that into your documents. A lot of my career changer resumes won't be very lengthy, so it's okay if it's just a page. And there are different ways to set up the resume, which if anybody has particular specific questions in their situation, I have no problem sending you over some templates that will kind of show you a layout of someone who's a career changer, because they are different than someone who's kind of keeping going on the succession train. So Good question. But yeah, eventually what you'll want to do for your cover letter if you're switching is just make it about your transferable skills. Short, sweet, pleasant, move on. You might not have a lot more to say. So save it for the resume, because that's where you're going to really want to start the drip and get that full of something good for them to read. And how important is a cover letter in the current environment? Always, Imran. Thanks for joining too. Cover letter, again, I mentioned at the top of the show, it's a necessary evil. There's 50% that read them and 50% that don't. And the ones that do, mandate them. And the ones that don't, they don't care. They'll toss them aside anyway, and that's fine. No harm, no foul. I personally, as a recruiter in my past, I never read them because I just wanted to get to the experience and see if this person had a decent work history and are doing things that either relate to my job or could relate to my job, like depending on where they were going in their career. So I know it's a bad habit, but that's how I recruited, because as a recruiter, we are chickens with our heads cut off. We're running 1,000 miles an hour and we got 50 jobs to fill. So you can't blame everyone for not taking the time to read paragraphs. So, but the ones that do, I worked with a hiring manager specifically that wanted to see the cover letter first before the resume. They have their own little ways of gatekeeping. So play the game. It's very important no matter what environment. And I don't know if you caught this at the top of the show also, but Imran, but if you do have an issue with COVID that caused you to get laid off, you can mention it in the cover letter, but one sentence, short and sweet. I actually mentioned the sentence on top of the call, but I'm going to post this on YouTube after so you can kind of go and track it down again. But something short and sweet, no rambling, got laid off due to COVID-19, moving on. And I think there was a percentage I saw on LinkedIn is 95% of the hiring managers will not, I'll just keep it easy, won't look down on you for getting laid off because of COVID. I know I can't really think of a professional way of saying that, but they are 95% will say they don't mind. They're going to still look into the resume to see what kind of candidate you are. So keep that in mind. Something like this, global economies, you know, all this kind of mess that we're in, there's still some human sides to it. So rest assured, don't make it worse than it is. It's not a red flag right now. Cool, guys. Well, thank you guys for joining. And I will be here next Wednesday, as well as on Tuesdays on Facebook. And just feel free to ping me if you have any questions in the meanwhile or need help. But otherwise, I'll be posting this on YouTube if you want to catch the beginning of the show. And, you know, thanks again for joining, everybody. Bye, Tracy.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.